I've bought over 50 locomotives, many for various reasons. Maybe because it looked good, maybe because it was great mechanically, maybe I was going to buy and clean it up and resell it later. I've got a lot of other reasons. But I don't think I've ever purchased a locomotive because it was absolutely stupid. Well, unfortunately, that changed last week. Yeah, I hate myself. They say nothing beautiful comes without suffering. Well, I want to take a knife to my eyes, but I can't. This is a train set that's somehow so awful it's looped back around to being beautiful. This little gremlin was produced by Marx in 1960, and it's more than just ugly. It has an incredibly interesting background and so many quirks that I think it's worth about talking about and highlighting. Marx Toys was a company founded in 1919 by Lewis and David Marx. They wouldn't produce trains until 1934, where they would go on to produce their first ever O-gauge trains. Marx was a toy company first and foremost, so they lacked the sort of detail even the most basic of Lionel locomotives had. But they had an emphasis on a quality product that could provide the same fun on a tighter budget. Marx didn't produce HO products until 1957, and they would continue to produce their HO trains until 1972, when Marx would cease production of everything altogether. The HO tooling would be sold to Model Power, who would continue to produce the Marx tooled cars. So what's interesting about this little train set? Well, this set has the quirk of being intended to be powered by 3 D-cell batteries, hidden away in this little building that doubles as your controller. The wire plugs into this terminal section via a simple clamp, and it's a simple forward, reverse, and neutral setup with no speed control. The curves in this set are 18-inch radius, and the rails on them are quite square and lacking the realistic rail definition offered on most other train sets, even of the time. The tracks connect via a pin inside the rail instead of the typical outside rail joiners. Alright, let's get to the start of the show. Let's talk about the train that comes in this little set. It definitely looks weird, and we'll get to that, but it's important to have a little bit of background. This is a promotional set produced for the Jolly Green Giant, a line of canned and frozen foods. Weird crossover, but sure, go off, I guess. This set was produced in 1960 and appears to be a one-time list item, but I cannot pin down exact dates beyond a 1960 release. If you know anything more about this, please let me know. This train could be considered quite an eyesore in many regards, but that insanity is sort of why I like it. Let's start with this locomotive. It's obviously styled after an early American locomotive, but they did the bare minimum and just glued on a new stack, domes, and a pilot onto an existing 040 locomotive, which came in a very similar battery-powered set. This makes the locomotive significantly taller than pretty much any other HO scale steam locomotive. The tender and gondola have remained unchanged in this set from other Marx sets apart from their color and lettering. Now, this caboose is what really won me over to buy this set. This caboose is completely unique to this set, and it has a unique mold for the caboose body. This Looney Tunes looking ass caboose shares a chassis with the Marx HO wide vision caboose, while the top body is molded in 3 unique pieces: the body, the cupola, and the stack. The couplers on this train are completely static, but more realistic looking than the normal horn hook couplers of the time. To couple these, you have to lift up one car and drop it onto the knuckle of the next one. It's a super nice fit that makes the couplers super reliable, but I personally wouldn't like to lose operating couplers for that reliability. Interestingly, these more modern KD style couplers actually fit very well into these old Marx ones. In terms of locomotive operation, this is a very smooth running locomotive. It's quite fast as it's only meant to run on a couple batteries instead of a 16-volt power supply, but it'll run just fine on a normal DC system or an existing DC layout. So this little train set is an unusual little footnote in model railroading history that was never intended to be nothing more than a toy. A toy it is, but it's an interesting look into a seldom talked about HO scale manufacturer and what could possibly be the strangest collaboration model project of all time. It's quite ugly, it's very crude, but it's fascinating. And isn't fascinating a good trait for something like this to have?